The rain had started innocently enough, soft patter against window panes, the gentle sigh of water meeting earth. There's something about rainfall that lulls us into a false sense of security, the way it softens edges, blurs boundaries, whispers, promises of cleansing and renewal. But for three unrelated people in three different corners of the world, what began as ordinary precipitation became the prelude to something unimaginable. Not supernatural, not fantastical, simply the quiet, horror of reality shifting beneath their feet, one raindrop at a time. Perhaps it's the white noise that does it, the way rainfall drowns out other sounds, creating perfect cover for footsteps that shouldn't be there. Perhaps it's how rain distorts vision, transforming familiar landscapes into something alien. Or maybe it's just that rain reminds us how thin the membrane really is between comfort and catastrophe. Whatever the reason, these three stories begin with rain, and once you hear them, you might never listen to that gentle patter against your window quite the same way again. The window. Anna Mercer woke to the sound of rainfall against her bedroom window, a steady, persistent rhythm that pulled her gradually from sleep. She lay still for a moment, orienting herself in the grey half-light of dawn. 6:15, Tuesday, October. The school semester well underway, essays piling up on her desk for grading. She pulled herself from bed, slipping her feet into worn slippers and wrapping her robe tightly around her body. The air felt damp even inside the house, that peculiar chill that comes with autumn rain. Anna had lived in this small coastal Oregon town for 14 years now. Enough time to know that this morning's rain wouldn't be a passing shower, but the first of many days of continuous precipitation. The locals sometimes joked about building arcs. The routine was automatic: coffee first, feed Rufus, her aging golden retriever. Check the headlines on her tablet while the coffee brewed. An ordinary morning, predictable as the tide. This was what she had built for herself after the divorce. A life of careful routines, of controlled variables, no surprises. The coffee machine gurgled its final notes as Anna scrolled through news headlines. More political deadlock, another corporate merger, climate predictions increasingly dire. Nothing new. She poured her coffee, added a splash of cream, and headed back toward her bedroom to dress for the day. That's when she noticed it. The guest room door was ajar, just slightly, just enough to catch her eye. Anna paused, coffee mug halfway to her lips. She always kept that door closed, always. It was a rule she had, one of her many small systems for maintaining order. She approached the door slowly, as if it might suddenly slam shut of its own accord. With her fingertips, she pushed. It opened wider. The guest room was exactly as it should be. Spare, clean, the bed neatly made with the blue and white quilt her mother had given her years ago. Nothing out of place. Except the window. The window was open, just a crack, but enough for a small puddle to have formed on the sill, enough for the curtains to stir gently in the damp breeze. Anna set her coffee down on the dresser with a sharp click and crossed to the window. She knew with absolute certainty that she hadn't opened it. She never opened the windows in this room. There was no reason to. No one had stayed here in over a year. She closed the window firmly, latching it, then used a tissue to blot the water from the wooden sill. Could she have opened it and forgotten? She was 42, not 82. She did not forget things like this. Rufus appeared in the doorway, his nails clicking on the hardwood floor. He gave a low whine. "It's nothing," Anna said, more to herself than to the dog. "I must have opened it yesterday to air the room out." But even as she said the words, she knew it wasn't true. She hadn't been in this room for at least a week. Before leaving for work, she double-checked all the locks on the doors and windows. A ridiculous precaution, she told herself. She lived in one of the safest towns in the state. Nothing ever happened here. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over her like the morning fog. The rain continued throughout the day, sometimes slackening to a drizzle, sometimes strengthening to a downpour, but never stopping entirely. By the time Anna arrived at Ocean View High School, the parking lot was dotted with puddles that reflected the grey sky. She hurried inside, her sensible shoes already damp despite her umbrella. Her first class of the day was AP English Literature, 12 seniors, most of whom she'd known since they were freshmen. Normally an engaged group, today they seemed distracted, glancing at their phones beneath their desks when they thought. She wasn't looking. "Ms. Mercer," Jake Patterson said, raising his hand halfway through their discussion of the Scarlet Letter. "Did you hear about the break-ins?" Anna set her chalk down. "What break-ins?" The students exchanged glances. "There were 3 houses hit last night," said Lily Chen, holding up her phone. "It's all over the community Facebook page. Nothing major was taken, just small stuff. But the weird thing is, the person didn't break anything to get in," Jake finished. "They think all 3 houses had doors or windows left unlocked." Anna felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain-dampened air. "Put the phones away," she said, her voice sharper than she'd intended. "We have Hawthorne to discuss." But as the students reluctantly returned to their books, Anna's mind was elsewhere. 3 houses, 3 unlocked entry points, and her own window mysteriously open this morning. Coincidence, she told herself firmly. It had to be coincidence. The day dragged on endlessly. Between classes, Anna checked the local news site, but found nothing about the break-ins. Probably just neighborhood gossip blown out of proportion. Small towns were like that. A missing garden gnome could transform into a crime wave by lunchtime. When the final bell rang, Anna gathered her papers quickly. She usually stayed late, grading or preparing for the next day. But today she wanted nothing more than to get home, to reassure herself that everything was as she'd left it. The rain was coming down harder now, drumming against the roof of her car as she drove the familiar route home. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up, and the world beyond the glass was a blur of grey and green. Hannah gripped the steering wheel tightly, leaning forward as if those few inches would somehow improve visibility. She was nearly home when her phone rang. The sound, amplified through the car's Bluetooth system, made her jump. The caller ID showed. Her neighbor's name, Helen Rodriguez. "Anna!" Helen's voice was tight with worry. "Are you nearly home?" "About 5 minutes away. What's wrong?" "Probably nothing. It's just, I thought I saw someone in your backyard earlier. A man, I think," I called out, "but he disappeared around the side of the house. I called the police, but they said with all the break-ins last night, they're stretched thin." They did. A drive-by, but didn't see anything. Anna's hands clenched the steering wheel harder. "What time was this?" "Maybe an hour ago. I've been watching your house since then, haven't seen anything else." "I'm almost home. I'll call you when I get inside." Anna ended the call and immediately dialed another number. David Chen, Lily's father, and the closest thing the town had to a security expert. He installed alarm systems and cameras for most of the businesses and some homes. He answered on the second ring. "Anna, everything okay?" "I'm not sure," she said, surprised at how steady her voice sounded. "Helen thinks she saw someone in my yard. With everything going on, I'll be right over," he said without hesitation. 20 minutes tops. Anna pulled into her driveway, the headlights illuminating sheets of rain. Her house looked exactly as she'd left it. The porch light still on from this morning, Rufus's face visible at the front window. Nothing out of place, nothing to fear. She sat in the car for a moment, gathering her courage. This was ridiculous. She was a grown woman, afraid to enter her own house in broad daylight. Well, what passed for daylight on a rainy October afternoon? With a decisive push, she opened the car door and dashed through the rain to her front porch. Her key slid into the lock smoothly, the deadbolt turning with a solid, reassuring click. Inside, Rufus greeted her with his usual enthusiasm, tail wagging, seemingly unconcerned. "Some watchdog you are," she murmured, scratching behind his ears. She did a quick walkthrough of the house, checking each room, each window, each door. Everything was locked, everything in its place. In the guest room, the window remained firmly shut, the sill dry. Anna exhaled slowly, feeling tension leave her shoulders. Maybe Helen had seen the mailman, or a delivery person. Maybe the whole thing with the break-ins was overblown. Maybe she really had opened that window herself and simply forgotten. By the time David arrived with his toolkit and a selection of wireless security cameras, Anna was almost ready to send him away again. But the memory of that open window, the puddle on the sill, made her reconsider. "It's probably nothing," she said as she showed him around the house, pointing out the best vantage points for the cameras. But better safe than sorry, right? David nodded, already measuring for the first installation. These break-ins have everyone on edge, and they're strange ones. Nothing valuable taken, just small personal items. A framed photo here, a piece of jewelry there. In one house, all they took was a used tube of lipstick from the bathroom. Anna frowned. That's odd. The police think it might be kids, or maybe someone with a mental health issue. But in this weather, with the storm getting worse, he shook his head. Just doesn't add up. By the time David left, 4 cameras had been installed. One covering the front yard, one the back, and one each at the side entrances. All fed into an app on Anna's phone, allowing her to check each view remotely. Thanks for doing this on such short notice, Anna said, walking David to the door. The rain was still coming down steadily, the daylight fading quickly into evening gloom. No problem. The motion sensors are active now, so you'll get an alert if anything larger than a raccoon comes into range. He hesitated at the door. You want me to check in later? Or I could ask one of my sons to drive by on their way home tonight. Anna shook her head. I'll be fine, really. I've got the cameras now and Rufus. At the sound of his name, the dog padded over, pressing against her leg. After David left, Anna made a simple dinner, soup from the freezer, a slice of bread, and settled in front of the television. But she couldn't focus on the show, her eyes constantly drawn to her phone, checking the camera views every few minutes. Nothing. Just rain and darkness, and the occasional swaying of tree branches in the wind. By 10 o'clock, Anna was exhausted from the constant vigilance. She'd spoken to Helen, reassured her friend that everything was fine, that David had installed cameras. She'd checked all the locks again. She'd even called the police station directly, and been told that yes, there had been a few minor break-ins, but no, there was nothing to worry about. They were increasing patrols in the area. In bed, Anna lay awake listening to the rain. It was heavier now, lashing against the windows, driven by a strengthening wind. The perfect night for insomnia. Perfect, too, for imagining shadows where there were none, for hearing footsteps in the creaks of an old house settling. She must have drifted off eventually, because she woke with a start, heart pounding, unsure what had disturbed her sleep. The rain was still falling, but something else had changed. She reached for her phone. 3:17 a.m. Then she saw it, an alert from the security app. Motion detected in the backyard. Fully awake now, Anna opened the app with trembling fingers. The night vision image showed her backyard in shades of grey and green. At first, she saw nothing unusual, just rain falling in silver streaks across the camera's view. Then, a movement at the edge of the frame. Not a person, not exactly, but a shadow darker than the surrounding night, moving with purpose along the fence line. Anna held her breath, watching as the shadow paused, seemed to turn toward the house, toward the camera, and then continued out of view. She quickly switched to the side yard camera, but the alert showed nothing there. Whatever it was hadn't continued around the house. It could have been anything, she told herself. A deer, a neighbor's dog that had gotten loose, even the wind, blowing something across the yard. But the prickling at the back of her neck told her it was none of those things. Anna slid out of bed, Rufus raising his head from his dog bed in the corner. "Stay," she whispered. And for once he obeyed, watching her with worried eyes as she moved to the bedroom door and eased it open. The house was silent except for the rain. Anna stood in the hallway, listening. Nothing. She crept to the guest room and pushed the door open slowly. Everything looked exactly as it had earlier. The bed made, the curtains still, the window firmly shut. She was about to turn away when she noticed something on the bedside table, something that hadn't been there before. A coffee mug. Her coffee mug, the one she'd left on the dresser that morning. It sat there innocuously, as if daring her to explain its presence. Anna stared at it, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Had she moved it herself? No, she was certain she hadn't been back in this room since that morning, which meant someone else had been here. Someone else was in her house. The realization hit her with physical force, a blow to the chest that left her gasping. She backed out of the room slowly, then turned and ran back to her bedroom, locking the door behind her. Rufus was up now, sensing her fear, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Anna grabbed her phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. "Emergency services?" "What's your emergency?" "There's someone in my house," Anna whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Are you safe? Are you somewhere secure?" "I'm in my bedroom. The door is locked, but they're here. They're in the house. Officers are on their way. Stay on the line with me. Do you have a weapon or anything you can use to defend yourself if necessary?" Anna looked around desperately. "No, wait." She remembered the heavy flashlight she kept in her bedside drawer for power outages. It wasn't much, but it was something. "I have a flashlight, a big one." "That's good. Now tell me exactly what you saw or heard that makes you think someone is in your house." Anna explained about the coffee cup, about the security camera alert. As she spoke, she heard Rufus's growl deepen, his attention fixed on the bedroom door. "Officers should be there in about 8 minutes, the dispatcher said. "Can you stay hidden until then?" But Anna wasn't listening anymore. Because there, coming from just outside her bedroom, was a sound. A soft sound, barely audible over the rain and Rufus's growling. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps approaching her door. And then, something worse. A gentle testing of the doorknob. A subtle pressure, not enough to force it, just enough to check if it was locked. "They're at my door," Anna breathed into the phone. "They're right outside my door." Rufus was barking now, a frantic, terrified sound. The handle moved again, more insistently this time. "Police are almost there," the dispatcher assured her. "Just hold on." The movement at the door stopped. For a moment, there was nothing but silence and the endless sound of rain. Then, from the other side of the door, a voice, soft, almost contemplative. "You really should use coasters, Anna." "Water. Things ruin the finish." Anna stopped breathing. That voice. She knew that voice, had heard it nearly every day for 5 years until the divorce. Mark, her ex-husband who had moved to California, who she hadn't seen or spoken to in almost a decade. "What do you want?" she called, her voice stronger than she felt. No answer, just the retreating sound of footsteps moving away down the hallway. When the police arrived 4 minutes later, they found the house empty except for Anna and Rufus. No sign of an intruder, no forced entry. The coffee mug still sitting on the bedside table in the guest room. They checked the security footage. Just after 3 a.m., a figure could be seen crossing the backyard. Indistinct in the rain, face impossible to make out. The figure didn't appear on any of the other cameras. "Could have left another way," one officer suggested. "But we didn't find any doors or windows unlocked or damaged." They took Anna's statement, wrote everything down dutifully. She told them about Mark, gave them his last known address in San Francisco, his old phone number. "We'll look into it," they promised. "And we'll have a patrol car drive by regularly for the next few days." But Anna could see it in their eyes. Skepticism, concern of a different sort. A woman alone, stressed, imagining threats, maybe even making them up for attention. They didn't believe her, not really. After they left, Anna sat in her kitchen, hands wrapped around a fresh mug of coffee, Rufus at her feet. Dawn was breaking, the rain finally beginning to slacken. In a few hours, she would need to decide whether to go to work or call in sick. She would need to function, to act normal. But first, she needed to understand what had happened, what was still happening. With trembling fingers, she opened her laptop and began a search. Mark Mercer, San Francisco. The results were sparse, but enough to send a chill down her spine. 4 years ago, Mark Mercer, 45, had been reported missing after failing to show up for work for 3 days. His car was found abandoned near the Golden Gate Bridge. His body was never recovered, but after 6 months he had been declared dead, presumed suicide. Anna stared at the screen, at the grainy photograph from the news article. The face of the man she had once loved, once hated, now supposedly 4 years dead. She closed the laptop slowly, her mind racing. If Mark was dead, then who had been? In her house last night? Who had spoken to her in his voice? And how had they known about her habit of nagging Mark about using coasters? The rain had nearly stopped now, just a light patter against the windows. The grey light of morning revealed a world washed clean, Everything familiar yet somehow changed. Anna picked up her phone and called the school. She wouldn't be coming in today. She had some things to take care of first, like finding out who had been moving things in her house, who had been watching her from the shadows, who had pretended to be a dead man just to terrify her, and why. As she hung up the phone, Anna glanced at the window. Something caught her eye. A face, just for an instant, peering in from the backyard. Her face she recognized immediately, though she hadn't seen it in years. Her own. The intersection. Raymond Ellis was already running late when the rain started. Not the dramatic cloudburst that announces itself with thunder and wind, but the sneaky, persistent kind that begins as a mist and gradually intensifies until you realize your windshield wipers can't keep up. He glanced at the dashboard clock, 8:47 a.m. His first delivery was scheduled for 9:15 across town, and morning traffic in suburban Maryland was unpredictable on the best of days. Add rain to the equation, and all bets were off. His phone buzzed. Without taking his eyes off the road, Raymond fumbled for it, knowing who it would be before he even glanced at the screen. His ex-wife, Marissa. "I'm driving," he answered, voice clipped. "It's about Sophia," Marissa said, not bothering with preliminaries. "She missed her orthodontist appointment yesterday." Raymond sighed. His 14-year-old daughter had been getting more forgetful lately, or more likely more selective about what she chose to remember. "I reminded her before she left for school," he said, switching lanes to get around a cautious driver, going 10 below the speed limit. The rain was coming down harder now. Well, she didn't go, and they charge a cancellation fee. "This is the second time, Ray." He could hear the accusation in her voice, that somehow this was his fault, that if he'd been there instead of in his own apartment across town, Sophia would have made it to her appointment. "I'll talk to her this weekend," he promised, "and I'll call Dr. Patel's office about the fee." "You'd better. And Ray? She needs to bring her science project on Friday, the one about ecosystems. She left it at your place." Raymond racked his brain trying to remember seeing any sort of school project in his apartment. "Are you sure? I don't recall." "Just check when you get home. It has to be there." Marissa hung up without saying goodbye, her standard operating procedure since the divorce 2 years ago. Raymond set the phone down on the passenger seat, shaking his head. One more thing to worry about on an already compressed schedule. His dispatcher had added 2 last-minute deliveries to his route. The rain was slowing traffic to a crawl, and now he had to somehow squeeze in time to search for Sophia's project and drop it off before Friday. He turned onto Maple Street, a familiar part of his regular route, a mix of small businesses and residential apartments. The rain intensified, sheets of water cascading down the windshield faster than the wipers could clear them. Raymond slowed the delivery van, squinting to make out the traffic light ahead. Yellow. He eased on the brakes, coming to a stop just as the light turned red. Drumming his fingers on the steering wheel, he glanced at the clock again. 8:55 now. Still time to make the first delivery, but the margin was getting thinner. It was then, waiting for the light to change, that Raymond noticed the man on the sidewalk to his right. Standing perfectly still in the downpour was a figure in a light gray jacket, facing away from the street, toward the apartment building. On the corner. The man wasn't moving, wasn't seeking shelter, just standing there getting soaked. Something about the rigid posture, the particular shade of the jacket, tickled at Raymond's memory. He'd seen this man before. The certainty of it was sudden and absolute, though he couldn't place where or when. The light turned green, but Raymond hesitated, still looking at the motionless figure on the sidewalk. A horn honked behind him, startling him back to awareness. He pressed the gas pedal, driving through the intersection, glancing in his rearview mirror until the man disappeared from view. All day, as Raymond completed his deliveries, the image of the man in the gray jacket kept resurfacing in his mind. By the time he returned to the dispatch center at the end of his shift, the rain had finally stopped, and he had convinced himself it was nothing, just one of those odd moments of déjà vu that happen to everyone. But the next morning, under another gray sky threatening more rain, Raymond found himself approaching the same intersection on Maple Street. He wasn't scheduled to be on this route today, but a co-worker had called in sick, and Raymond had volunteered to take the extra hours. Child support and alimony didn't leave much room in his budget for luxuries like savings or retirement funds. The light was red again. Raymond came to a stop, and almost involuntarily, his eyes were drawn to the same spot on the sidewalk. The man was there again. Same grey jacket, same position, same stillness, as if he'd been standing there all night, waiting. But something was different. The man wasn't facing the apartment building anymore. He was looking up, not at the sky, but at a specific window on the second floor. Raymond stared, his mouth suddenly dry. The window the man was watching was ordinary, curtains drawn, nothing to distinguish it from the others that lined the building's facade. But the intensity of the man's gaze was palpable, even from a distance. Raymond found himself reaching for his phone, intending to take a picture. But before he could, the light changed. The car behind him honked again and Raymond drove on, unsettled in a way he couldn't articulate. That evening, after finishing his route and picking up Chinese takeout for dinner, Raymond sat in his small apartment, the television providing background noise he wasn't really listening to. His mind kept returning to the man at the intersection. He tried to place where he might have seen him before. A previous customer on his delivery route, someone from the neighborhood where he'd lived with Marissa and Sophia, a random encounter at a gas station or grocery store. None of those possibilities felt right. The sense of recognition had been too visceral, too immediate for such a casual connection. On impulse, Raymond opened his laptop and searched for news about the Maple Street area. Nothing unusual, a community cleanup scheduled for the weekend. A minor water main break 2 streets over last month. An ongoing dispute about parking regulations. Nothing that explained a man standing in the rain, staring at windows. He closed the laptop and went to check Sophia's room, or what passed for her room in his apartment, a small second bedroom that she used during her weekends with him. No science project that he could see. Just the usual teenage scatter of clothes, books, and half-empty water bottles. Raymond sighed and sent a text to Marissa. No sign of the project here. Sure she didn't leave it at school? The response came. Quickly. She says it's definitely at your place, in the hall closet maybe. The hall closet was mostly empty, except for a vacuum cleaner, some winter coats, and a few boxes of Christmas decorations. No school project. Not here either, he texted back. I'll keep looking. He was about to set the phone down when it buzzed again. Marissa, he assumed, with another suggestion, but the message wasn't from her, it was from an unknown number. Did you see him again today? Raymond stared at the text, a chill running down his spine. He didn't recognize the number, and the message made no sense, unless it was referring to the man at the intersection. But how would anyone know about that? Before he could decide whether to respond, another text came through from the same number. He's watching. Always watching. Raymond's finger hovered over the block button. This had to be a wrong number or some kind of bizarre scam. He started to type a response, wrong number, but stopped. Instead, he wrote, "Who is this?" The 3 dots appeared, indicating the person was typing. Then they disappeared. No response came. Raymond set the phone down carefully, as if it might explode, and went to check that his apartment door was locked. It was, with both the regular lock and the deadbolt engaged. He even added the chain, something he rarely bothered with. Back in the living room, he turned up the volume on the TV, trying to drown out the unease that had settled over him. It was just a strange coincidence, he told himself, a wrong number, a miscommunication. But that night Raymond dreamed of the intersection. In the dream, he wasn't in his delivery van but on foot, standing across the street from the man in the grey jacket. Rain fell between them, a curtain of water that somehow didn't touch either of them. The man turned slowly to face Raymond. But where a face should have been, there was only a blank expanse of skin, featureless and smooth. Raymond woke gasping, sheets twisted around him, the dream already fading but the terror of it lingering like a bad taste. The next day was his day off. Raymond spent it searching the apartment for Sophia's project, still no sign of it, catching up on laundry, and steadfastly avoiding thoughts of the man at the intersection. By evening, he had convinced himself that the whole thing had been blown out of proportion by his tired mind. He ordered a pizza for dinner, opened a beer, and was just settling in to watch a basketball game when his phone rang. Unknown number. Raymond's finger hesitated over the decline button, but curiosity won out. Hello? Silence on the other end. Then, faintly, what sounded like rainfall. Hello? Who is this? Raymond demanded, irritation overpowering his initial apprehension. The sound of rain grew louder, as if someone had moved closer to a window or door. Then, a voice, male, unfamiliar, slightly muffled. He's there now, looking up at her window. He comes every day. Raymond's hand tightened on the phone. Who is this? What are you talking about? The grey man at the intersection. He's watching her. A cold weight settled in Raymond's stomach. Watching who? But the line had gone dead. Raymond stood, phone still clutched in his hand, breathing hard. This wasn't a wrong number. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone knew about the man at the intersection. Someone was watching Raymond himself. He paced the small living room, trying to think. Should he call the police and say that a stranger had texted him about another stranger standing on a public sidewalk? That he'd had a phone call from someone who seemed to know what he'd seen? None of it was illegal. None of it even made sense. The doorbell rang, making Raymond jump. The pizza. He'd forgotten about the pizza. He opened the door cautiously, chain still engaged. The delivery guy, a teenager with acne and a bored expression, held out the pizza box. $12.50, he said, not looking up from his phone. Raymond fumbled for his wallet, handed over a 20, and told the kid to keep the change. He took the pizza, closed the door, and immediately re-engaged the deadbolt and chain. As he set the pizza down on the coffee table, his phone buzzed with another text. Don't go to the intersection tomorrow. Raymond stared at the message, a chill spreading through him despite the warmth of the apartment. He typed back, "Why not? Who are you?" The response came immediately. "Because he'll be looking for you next." Raymond didn't sleep that night. He sat in the living room, lights on, jumping at every sound from the hallway outside his apartment. The pizza sat untouched, congealing in its box. By morning, exhaustion had dulled the edge of his fear, replacing it with a kind of numb resolve. He called in sick to work, something he never did, couldn't really afford to do, and spent the day checking and rechecking the locks, peering through the peephole whenever he heard a noise in the hallway. No more texts came. No more mysterious phone calls. By evening, Raymond had almost convinced himself that it had all been an elaborate prank, maybe orchestrated by one of his co-workers who knew his route and had noticed his odd behavior at the intersection. That night he finally slept, deep and dreamless, waking to sunlight streaming through his bedroom window. The rain had stopped and the sky was clear for the first time in days. Raymond felt lighter, the strange events of the past few days already taking on the quality of a half-remembered dream. He went to work, took his regular route, deliberately avoiding Maple Street, and even managed to laugh about the whole thing with a co-worker during lunch. Probably just some kids messing around, the co-worker suggested. They see you stopping at the same light every day, staring at some dude on the corner. They decide to have some fun with it. Raymond nodded, grateful for the rational explanation. Yeah, that makes sense. Still weird, though. World's full of weird, man. You just gotta roll with it. By the time Raymond picked up Sophia for his weekend visitation, the incident had receded to the back of his mind, replaced by the more immediate concern of making sure his daughter had everything she needed for their weekend together. "Did you find my project?" Sophia asked as soon as she climbed into his car outside her mother's house. Raymond shook his head. "I looked everywhere, Soph. Are you absolutely sure you left it at my place?" She rolled her eyes in that particular teenage way that suggested he was being deliberately obtuse. "Yes, Dad. I worked on it at your apartment 2 weekends ago, remember? You helped me with the rainforest part." Raymond frowned. He had no memory of helping with any project. The rainforest part? The ecosystem diagram. You drew the tree for me because I said I couldn't draw trees, remember? He didn't remember. Not at all, but arguing with Sophia was never productive, so he just nodded. "We'll look again when we get home." At the apartment, Sophia immediately began searching through. Her room, then the living room, then the small home office where Raymond kept his bills and paperwork. No project. "This is so frustrating," she said, flopping down on the couch. "I spent hours on that project. It's due Monday, and if I don't turn it in, Mrs. Whitaker will kill me." "We'll remake it," Raymond said, though the thought of spending his entire Saturday recreating a middle school science project wasn't exactly appealing. What exactly was it again? Sophia sighed dramatically. It was a model of 3 different ecosystems: rainforest, desert, and Arctic. "I used that big poster board you bought me, and I had all these little animals made out of clay and the trees you helped me with." Her voice trailed off as Raymond's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it, expecting it to be from Marissa, but it was the unknown number again. "Did you go to the intersection today?" Raymond stared at the message, his mouth suddenly dry. He glanced at Sophia, who had picked up the TV remote and was flipping through channels, apparently having moved on from the missing project crisis. He typed back, "Who is this? How did you get my number?" The reply came immediately. "You know who I am. You've seen me before, at the intersection." Raymond's hands were shaking now. He stood abruptly, startling Sophia. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Nothing," he managed, forcing a smile. "Just remembered something I forgot to do. Give me a minute." He went to his bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. Another text appeared. "Go to the window." Raymond hesitated, then crossed to the bedroom window that overlooked the parking lot of his apartment complex. It was early evening, the sky transitioning from blue to purple, streetlights just beginning to flicker on. At first he saw nothing unusual, just cars, the small playground at the edge of the lot, a couple walking their dog. Then he spotted a figure standing beside the dumpster at the far end of the lot, a man in a gray jacket, face turned up toward Raymond's window. Raymond stumbled backward, dropping the phone. It couldn't be. The intersection was miles away. How could the man be here outside his apartment? His phone buzzed again from where it had fallen on the floor. Raymond picked it up with trembling fingers. "Now you know I'm real. Check the closet." Raymond stood frozen, staring at the message. "Check the closet." Which closet? The hall closet, he realized, where Sophia's project was supposedly hidden. He opened his bedroom door and nearly collided with Sophia, who was standing right outside. "Dad, can we order pizza? I'm starving." Raymond nodded distractedly. "Sure. Yeah, in a minute." He moved past her to the hall closet, aware of her curious gaze following him. Slowly he opened the door. The contents were exactly as he'd left them: vacuum cleaner, winter coats, Christmas decoration boxes. Except now there was something else. Leaning against the back wall was a large poster board, colorful and elaborate, divided into 3 distinct sections showing different ecosystems. Sophia's project, which he knew with absolute certainty, had not been there when he'd checked 2 days ago. "Oh my God, you found it!" Sophia exclaimed, rushing forward to grab the poster. "Where was it?" Raymond couldn't answer. He was staring at the rainforest section of the project, specifically at the trees. Trees he supposedly had helped draw, though he had no memory of doing so. Trees drawn in a distinctive, precise style that he recognized. It was his drawing technique, unmistakably, but he had no memory of creating them. "Dad?" Sophia was looking at him strangely. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," he said automatically. "Just surprised we found it, that's all." His phone buzzed again. With a sense of dread, he looked at the screen. "Now do you believe me? You just don't remember. But I do. I remember everything." Raymond shoved the phone into his pocket. "Let's order that pizza," he said to Sophia, his voice unnaturally bright. "And then you can tell me all about your project. Remind me when we worked on it together." Sophia launched into a detailed explanation as they walked back to the living room, but Raymond was barely listening. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of what was happening. The project that appeared out of nowhere, the drawings he didn't remember making, the man at the intersection who had somehow found his way to Raymond's apartment. None of it made sense, unless there were gaps in his memory, unless there were things he had done, places he had been, that he couldn't recall. Later that night, after Sophia had gone to bed, Raymond sat in the dark living room, staring at his phone. No more texts had come. The man in the grey jacket was no longer visible in the parking lot, if he had ever really been there at all. On impulse, Raymond opened his laptop and typed into the search bar, "memory loss symptoms." The results were a list of conditions ranging from mild, stress, lack of sleep, to severe brain injury, dementia, dissociative disorders. Raymond read through them, searching for something, anything that might explain what was happening to him. One term caught his eye: dissociative fugue. He clicked on the link and read, "A rare condition in which a person forgets who they are and may create a new identity. Fugue states may last from hours to years." Further reading revealed that people in fugue states often wandered from their homes, sometimes traveling far distances, completely unaware of their actions. When they recovered, they had no memory of what they had done while in the fugue state. Could that be it? Had he been experiencing fugue episodes? Times when he became someone else, did things he couldn't later remember? Like drawing trees for Sophia's project, like standing at an intersection in the rain watching an apartment window. The thought made his blood run cold. If he was having these episodes, what else might he have done that he couldn't remember? His phone buzzed, making him jump. Another text from the unknown number. "You're starting to understand now, but you still don't remember me. That hurts, Ray, after everything we've been through together." Raymond stared at the message, his heart pounding. The casual use of his nickname, the implication of a shared history, it was as if the sender knew him intimately. He typed back, "Tell me who you are, please." The response came after a long pause. "I'm the one who watches, just like you watch her, tomorrow at the intersection. Be there at 8:45, come alone." Raymond didn't sleep that night. He checked on Sophia repeatedly, irrationally afraid that she might disappear if he didn't keep vigil. By morning, his eyes were burning with exhaustion, his thoughts a confused jumble. He made Sophia breakfast, trying to act normal, asking about her plans for the day, about school, about friends, anything to anchor himself in the routine of ordinary life. "Dad, you're being weird," she said finally, eyeing him over her cereal bowl. "Are you sick or something?" "Just tired," he said. "Didn't sleep well." "Is it because of Mom? Is she being mean to you again?" Raymond managed a smile. "No, nothing like that, just adult stuff, nothing for you to worry about." After breakfast, he suggested they go to the mall. Neutral territory, public, safe. Sophia agreed enthusiastically, already planning which stores she wanted to visit. The day passed in a blur of shopping bags and food court meals. Raymond constantly checking his phone, constantly scanning faces in the crowd, looking for the man in the grey jacket. But there was no sign of him, and no more texts came. By Sunday, evening when he dropped Sophia back at Marissa's house, Raymond had almost convinced himself that the whole thing had been some kind of stress-induced hallucination. The project had been in the closet all along. He had just missed it somehow. The text could be explained away as a wrong number or a prank that had gone too far. The man at the intersection was just a coincidence, someone who happened to stand in the same spot 2 days in a row. And yet, as he drove back to his empty apartment, Raymond found himself taking a detour. Not consciously, not with any plan in mind, but suddenly he was turning onto Maple Street, approaching the familiar intersection. It was 8:43 p.m. The rain had returned, a light drizzle that distorted the streetlights into hazy orbs. Raymond pulled his car to the curb about half a block from the intersection and switched off the engine. For several minutes he just sat there, watching the corner through the rain-streaked windshield. There was no sign of the man in the grey jacket. The sidewalk was empty, the apartment building windows mostly dark. At precisely 8:45, Raymond's phone buzzed with a text. "Look at the second-floor window, third from the left." Raymond's eyes moved to the window indicated. Unlike the others, it was brightly lit, curtains open. And there, silhouetted against the light, was a figure, a woman, her back to the window, seemingly moving around the room, unaware she was being observed, Another text. That's her, my wife. She moved here after she left me, changed her name, thinks I can't find her. Raymond's mouth went dry. He typed back, "Who are you?" "You know who I am, Ray. You've been helping me watch her for weeks now." Raymond's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. He had no memory of watching this woman, no memory of helping anyone surveillance an ex-wife, but the texts implied otherwise. "Don't worry about the memory problems. Side effect of the medication. Small price to pay for your help." Medication? What medication? Raymond had never taken anything stronger than over-the-counter painkillers, unless during these gaps in his memory, during these fugue states he couldn't recall, he had been taking something that had been given to him. His phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a text. It was a call from Marissa. He answered automatically, his eyes still fixed on the lit window across the street. "Ray." Marissa's voice was tight with concern. "Sophia just told me something strange. She said you kept asking her about when you helped with her project, like you didn't remember doing it, and that you were acting weird all weekend, checking your phone constantly, looking out windows like you were expecting someone. Are you okay?" Raymond couldn't answer. His throat had closed up, his mind racing with implications he didn't want to face. "Ray, are you there? Look, if something's wrong, if you're not well, I need to know. For Sophia's sake." "I'm fine," he managed finally. "Just tired, stressed about work." "You sure that's all? Because Sophia seemed really worried, and she doesn't worry about much these days beyond her social media accounts." "That's all," he said more firmly. "I've got to go. Talk later." He ended the call before she could ask more questions. Almost immediately, another text arrived. "Got rid of the ex? Good. Now look at the alley beside the building. I'm waiting." Raymond looked toward the narrow gap between the apartment building and the neighboring structure. In the shadows, barely visible, stood a figure in a gray jacket. Everything in Raymond screamed not to go, to start the car and drive away, to go home and lock the doors and pretend none of this was happening. But some deeper compulsion had taken hold, the need to know, to understand what was happening to him, to fill in the blanks in his memory. He opened the car door and stepped out into the rain. The walk to the alley seemed to take both an eternity and no time at all. The figure retreated deeper into the shadows as Raymond approached, leading him further from the street. "Who are you?" Raymond called, his voice echoing slightly between the close walls of the buildings. No answer, just the sound of footsteps, moving away, drawing him deeper into the darkness. Raymond followed, water soaking through his shirt, his shoes splashing in puddles. The alley opened into a small courtyard, enclosed on three sides by the backs of buildings. Here the figure finally stopped and turned to face him. The man in the grey jacket stood motionless, rain streaming down his face. It was hard to make out his features in the dim light that spilled from a single window above. But there was something familiar about him, the set of his shoulders, the angle of his jaw. "Do I know you?" Raymond asked, stopping a few yards away. The man tilted, his head slightly. "You should. We've been working together for months now." The voice, it was the same one Raymond had heard on the phone, soft, slightly muffled, but with an underlying intensity that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "I don't remember," Raymond said. "I don't remember any of this. Who are you? What have you done to me?" The man took a step closer. "It's not what I've done to you, Ray. It's what we've done together." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled something out, a small bottle, white with a pharmacy label. He tossed it to Raymond, who caught it reflexively. It was a prescription bottle with his name on it. The medication was one he didn't recognize, with a long chemical name. "Side effects include memory loss," the man said, as if reading Raymond's thoughts. "But it keeps the episodes controlled, mostly." "Episodes," Raymond repeated, staring at the bottle. "The blackouts, the violent outbursts. The reason Marissa left you. The reason you only get supervised visits with Sophia." Raymond shook his head, denial rising like bile in his throat. "No, that's not. I don't have supervised visits. I had Sophia all weekend, alone." The man laughed, a sound without humor. "Is that what you think happened? Check your phone, Ray. Check the photos." With trembling hands, Raymond pulled out his phone and opened his photo gallery. The most recent images were from the weekend. Sophia. At the mall, Sophia eating lunch, Sophia trying on clothes. But in every single photo there was someone else present. A woman Raymond didn't recognize, always in the background, watching. The social worker, the man said quietly, always there, making sure you don't have another episode around your daughter. Raymond's legs gave out, and he sank to his knees. On the wet pavement. None of this could be real, none of this could be happening. "Why are you doing this?" he whispered. "What do you want from me?" The man knelt down in front of him, close enough now that Raymond could see his face clearly. In the dim light, it was like looking in a distorted mirror, the same basic features as his own, but arranged slightly differently, like a close relative or... "I need you, brother," the man said softly. "I need you to help me get her back." Brother. The word echoed in Raymond's mind, unlocking something, a memory buried deep but not erased. A twin brother institutionalized when they were teenagers after a violent incident. Parents who had forbidden Raymond from contacting him, who had eventually moved the family to another state to escape the stigma. A brother whose existence Raymond had been encouraged to forget, to deny, until it became easier to pretend he'd never existed at all. "Michael," Raymond whispered, the name emerging from some locked corner of his memory. The man smiled, an expression that didn't reach his eyes. "You do remember. Good. That makes things easier." "You're not real," Raymond said, backing away, on his hands and knees. "You can't be real. You died. They told me you died in the institution." Michael's smile widened. "Is that what they told you? And you believed them? After everything they lied about?" Raymond couldn't breathe. The reality he had carefully constructed over years was crumbling around him, revealing something darker, more chaotic underneath. "The woman in the apartment," he managed to say, "she's not your wife." "No," Michael agreed, still smiling that terrible smile. "She's the psychiatrist who had me committed, the one who testified that I was a danger to myself and others, the one who kept me locked away for 20 years. Raymond's back hit the wall of the building. There was nowhere else to retreat. Michael advanced slowly, the rain plastering his hair to his skull, his grey jacket now almost black with water. "And now," Michael continued, his voice mild, conversational, "you're going to help me make her pay. Like you've been helping me for months, every time you take your medication and forget who you really are. Every time you become me for a few hours, watching her, learning her routines, helping me plan." "No." Raymond shook his head frantically. "I wouldn't, I didn't." Michael reached into his jacket again and pulled out a phone identical to Raymond's. He tapped the screen and turned it to show Raymond. On the screen was a video. Raymond watching the woman's apartment. Raymond following her to a grocery store. Raymond sitting in a car outside her office building. All things he had no memory of doing. "You see," Michael said softly, "you've been me and I've been you. Two halves of the same person, really. That's what they never understood." Raymond closed his eyes, trying to shut out the evidence of a life he couldn't remember living, actions he couldn't remember taking. When he opened them again, Michael was standing over him, hand extended. "Come on, brother, we have work to finish tonight." Raymond looked at the offered hand, then up at his twin's face, so like his own, yet twisted by decades of rage and confinement. In that moment, he understood that whatever gaps existed in his memory, whatever confusion clouded his mind, there was one choice still available to him, one chance to break the pattern. He could say no. "I'm not helping you," Raymond said, his voice stronger than he expected. "Whatever I did before, whatever you made me do, it stops now." Michael's expression hardened. "You don't have a choice, Ray, you never did. The medication is already in your system. In about 10 minutes, you won't remember this conversation. You won't remember me. You'll just do exactly what I tell you to. Do like you always do." Raymond's hand closed around the prescription bottle, still clutched in his palm. The bottle that supposedly contained the drug that was erasing his memories, turning him into a puppet for his brother's revenge fantasies. With a sudden motion, he hurled the bottle away, hearing it clatter somewhere in the darkness. "No more," he said. "I'm done." Michael's smile was almost pitying. You think that's the only dose? Check your coffee this morning. Check the bottle of water in your car. I've made sure you stay compliant. A wave of dizziness swept over Raymond. Was Howitt's suggestion, or was the drug already taking effect? He couldn't be sure. But he knew he had to act now, before whatever clarity he had slipped away entirely. He lunged forward, catching Michael by surprise, tackling him to the wet pavement. They struggled, two mirror images grappling in the rain, each seeking leverage, each knowing instinctively how the other would move. Raymond managed to pin Michael briefly, using his slight weight advantage. "It's over," he gasped. "I'm calling the police, the doctor, anyone who'll listen." Michael laughed, a chilling sound up close. "And tell them what? That your dead twin brother has been drugging you? That you've been stalking a woman you don't is... No? They'll lock you up, Ray, just like they locked me up." The momentary distraction was enough. Michael twisted, throwing Raymond off balance, reversing their positions. Now it was Raymond pinned to the ground, Michael's forearm pressing against his throat. "I didn't want it to be this way," Michael said, sounding genuinely regretful. "We could have done this together. Two brothers reunited after all these years." Raymond struggled for breath, for words. "You're not real," he managed, the darkness at the edges of his vision now having nothing to do with the dim alley. "You died. Years ago." Michael's pressure on his throat eased slightly, just enough to allow Raymond to draw a ragged breath. "Keep telling yourself that," Michael whispered. "Maybe eventually you'll believe it, just like you believed all their other lies." Then he was gone, his weight suddenly lifted from Raymond's chest. Raymond gasped, drawing air into his burning lungs, rolling onto his side on the wet pavement. By the time he managed to get to his feet, the alley was empty. No sign of Michael. No sign that anyone had been there at all except for the mud on Raymond's clothes and the bruises forming on his throat. He staggered back to his car, each step heavy with dread. What if Michael was right? What if he had been drugged, manipulated, used as a tool for someone else's revenge? What if there were things he had done, terrible things, that he simply couldn't remember? The drive home was a blur. Raymond's mind raced with fragments of memories, moments that suddenly made sense in this new, terrifying context. Unexplained absences, lost time, Sophia's worried glances, Marissa's increasing reluctance to leave him alone with their daughter. In his apartment, he went straight to the bathroom and emptied the medicine cabinet. Nothing unusual there, just ordinary painkillers, cold medicine, a half-empty bottle of sleeping pills prescribed months ago when the insomnia got bad after the divorce. He checked the kitchen next, pouring out the remains of the morning's coffee, dumping the contents of the water pitcher down the sink. If he had been drugged, there was no telling where or how. His phone buzzed. A text from the unknown number, from Michael. "You can't escape who you really are, Ray. I'll see you at the intersection tomorrow, just like always." Raymond stared at the message, his finger hovering over the block button. But before he could press it, another text came through. This one was from Marissa. "Sophia left her math textbook at your place. Can you drop it by before school tomorrow?" Raymond frowned. Sophia hadn't brought any textbooks to his apartment this weekend. He was certain of that, unless it was another gap in his memory. Another thing he'd forgotten. He typed back, "Sure, 7:30, okay?" Marissa's response was immediate. "Perfect. But the social worker can't make it tomorrow morning. Will you be okay? On your own for the handoff?" Raymond froze, staring at the message. The social worker, just like Michael had said. He went to his daughter's room and searched frantically for a math textbook. Nothing. He checked his own room next, then the living room, the kitchen. No textbook anywhere. But on the coffee table, placed so prominently it was impossible to miss, was a small white prescription bottle with his name on it. The same bottle he had thrown away in the alley. Raymond picked it up with trembling fingers, reading the label more carefully this time. The prescribing doctor was someone he'd never heard of. The medication was for management of dissociative episodes and associated conditions. He opened the bottle and shook a single pill into his palm. Small, white, innocuous looking. Was this what was causing his memory gaps? Or was it, as the label suggested, treating a condition he didn't know he had? There was no way to be sure. No way to trust his own mind, his own memories. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night was quiet except for the distant sounds of traffic, of city life continuing normally, unaware of the chaos in one man's apartment, in one man's mind. Raymond set the pill bottle down carefully and picked up his phone. He typed out a message to Marissa. "Can we talk about Sophia, about the social worker? I need to understand what's happening." Her reply came after a long pause. "It's late, Ray. We've been through all this before. Nothing has changed. The restraining order is still in effect. Limited, supervised visitation only. The fact that you're even asking makes me think you're off your medication again. Restraining order? Supervised visitation?" Raymond's world tilted on its axis. None of this aligned with his memories of the weekend, of the past 2 years since the divorce. His phone buzzed again. "Michael. Now do you believe me? They've been lying to you, drugging you, making you forget who you really are. Meet me at the intersection tomorrow, 10:45. I'll explain everything." Raymond stared at the two conversation threads side by side on his phone screen. Marissa's disturbing revelation about restraining orders and supervision, Michael's offer of explanation, of truth. Neither could be trusted. Neither felt real, and yet there was the evidence. The project that appeared from nowhere, the prescription bottle that returned no matter how many times he discarded it, the photos showing a woman he didn't recognize watching him, with his daughter. Raymond set the phone down and went to the window, looking out at the night. Somewhere out there was his brother, real or imagined, he couldn't be sure anymore. Somewhere out there was the truth about who he was, what he had done, what had been done to him. And tomorrow at 8:45, at that rain-soaked intersection, he would have to decide which version of reality to believe. Which version of himself to become. The message. Kelsey Chen was good at deleting things, emails, texts, voicemails, anything digital that accumulated and cluttered her life. As a freelance editor, she had to be meticulous about organization, about separating the essential from the superfluous. Keep what matters, delete the rest. A simple philosophy that had served her well for 28 years. So when she settled into her small Chicago apartment on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, determined to clear the backlog of messages that had piled up during a particularly busy week, she approached the task with her usual efficiency. Emails first. Delete the promotional offers. File the client correspondence in the appropriate folders. Flag the few that required immediate response for later that evening. Text messages next. Delete the group chat that had devolved into an endless exchange of memes. Delete the delivery notifications. Keep the ongoing conversation with her mother, messages from close friends, professional contacts, voicemails last. These were the most tedious, requiring her to actually listen to each one before deciding whether to save or delete. Kelsey plugged in her earbuds, tapped the voicemail icon on her phone, and began working through the queue. 2 from potential clients, saved for follow-up. 1 from her dentist's office. Reminder for a cleaning next month, deleted after noting the date in her calendar. A robocall about her car's extended warranty, deleted with particular satisfaction. And then 1 from an unknown number. Kelsey frowned slightly. She rarely received voicemails from numbers not in her contacts, and those that did come through were usually spam. Her finger hovered over the delete button, but something, a small inexplicable hesitation, made her press play instead. Silence. For several seconds, just silence, with perhaps the faintest background ambience, hard to distinguish, like static or rain. It was the sound of rainfall, quiet but unmistakable, and something else barely perceptible beneath it, a soft shuffling sound, like movement across carpet. The message ended without a word being spoken. Kelsey stared at her phone, a faint unease settling over her. Probably a pocket dial, she told herself. Someone had called her accidentally. Left a few seconds of ambient noise before hanging up. Nothing unusual about that. She was about to delete the message when she noticed the timestamp. 2:41 a.m., a week ago. The night she'd returned late from Amara's apartment, walking the 6 blocks in the rain after the rideshare app had crashed during a surge. A coincidence, surely. People pocket-dialed at all hours. She tapped the delete button only to discover there was another voicemail from the same unknown number, left just minutes after the first. Again, she hesitated before playing it. This time there was more than just rain and shuffling. A voice, low, muffled, seemingly distant from the phone's microphone, whispered something brief and indistinct. Kelsey played it again, turning up the volume, straining to make out the words. No good. The whisper was too soft, too distorted. It could have been anything from hello to help me to found you. A chill ran down Kelsey's spine, entirely separate from the air conditioning that kept her apartment cool against the humid Chicago summer. She saved both messages, then did something she rarely did. She searched online for the phone number that had called her. The results were sparse. The number wasn't associated with any business or known spam operation. It appeared to be a local, Chicago number, possibly a cell phone or VoIP line. Nothing suspicious, but nothing reassuring either. Kelsey set her phone down and went to the window, gazing out at the rain that had been falling steadily since morning. The same rain that provided the backdrop to those strange voicemails. The same rain that had soaked her that night as she walked home, clutching her broken umbrella, increasingly certain that someone was following her. She hadn't told anyone about that feeling, hadn't wanted to seem paranoid, hadn't wanted to admit, even to herself, how her pace had quickened with each block, how her keys had been clutched between her fingers like makeshift brass knuckles, how she'd kept glancing over her shoulder at shadows that seemed to shift and follow. Looking back, she couldn't pinpoint what exactly had triggered her unease. There had been no obvious figure trailing her, no footsteps splashing through puddles behind her. Just an awareness, a primal instinct that she was being watched, being followed. By the time she reached her building, she'd been nearly running, fumbling with her keys at the entrance, relief washing over her when the door locked securely behind her. The next morning, in the clear light of day, she'd dismissed the whole episode as late-night paranoia, enhanced by too many true crime podcasts and the naturally eerie quality of urban streets in the rain. She hadn't thought about it again. Until now. Until these voicemails that aligned too perfectly with that night to be mere coincidence. Kelsey returned to her desk and opened her journal app, another organizational tool, a place to record thoughts, ideas, deadlines. She scrolled back to the date in question, curious if she'd made any notes about her unnerving walk home. There was an entry, time-stamped 3:04 a.m. Strange feeling, walking home, like I was watched. Door unlocked when I got there. Didn't tell anyone. Kelsey stared at the screen, a cold weight settling in her stomach. She had no memory of writing this, no memory of finding her door unlocked. That detail surely would have stayed with her, would have prompted a call to the building manager, a request to change the locks. She scrolled through more recent entries, looking for any follow-up, any mention of changing locks or reporting a security concern. Nothing. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the windows with renewed vigor. Kelsey found herself staring at the front door of her apartment, at the deadbolt she was suddenly irrationally certain she had locked. She crossed the room quickly and checked. Locked. Of course it was locked. She always locked it. Just as she'd surely locked it that night, despite what her journal claimed. Unless she hadn't, unless her sleep-deprived mind had made a critical error, unless someone else had been in her apartment. The thought was too disturbing to entertain. Kelsey returned to her desk, forcing herself to focus on the concrete, the logical. She picked up her phone again and played the second voicemail once more, this time selecting the option to send it to her email so she could open it on her computer. With the audio file saved to her laptop, she opened the editing software she sometimes used for transcribing interviews. The program allowed for enhanced playback, for slowing down audio, for filtering out background noise. If there were intelligible words in that whispered message, this would find them. She imported the file, applied a simple filter to reduce the rain sound, and slowed the playback to half speed. Then she hit play, bracing herself for what she might hear. The rain became a strange, distorted patter, individual drops now distinguishable. The shuffling sound transformed into something more deliberate. Footsteps, she realized, moving slowly over carpet. And then the whisper, clearer now though still distorted by the slow playback. "Don't forget." Kelsey sat back, staring at the waveform on her screen. Don't forget what? Who would call her at 2:41 a.m. to deliver such a cryptic reminder? She ran the audio again, this time at 75% speed, seeking a middle ground where the voice might sound more natural, might reveal more. "Don't forget what I told you." The extra words emerged from the distortion, previously inaudible at normal speed. 5 simple words that made the message even more unsettling, even more personal, because it implied a prior conversation, a shared secret, an established relationship between caller and recipient. Kelsey had no idea who this person was, no recollection of being told anything she was supposed to remember, unless, like the unlocked door, this too had been forgotten. She spent the next hour experimenting with different filters, different playback speeds, trying to extract any additional information from the audio file. But there was nothing more to find. No name, no context, no clue as to what she was supposed to remember. As night fell, the rain continued its relentless percussion against her windows. Kelsey found herself checking the locks repeatedly, drawing, curtains closed, turning on every light in the apartment. She tried to work, but her concentration was shattered, her mind continuously returning to those whispered words, to the journal entry she didn't remember writing, to the unsettling possibility that her memory could not be trusted. By midnight, exhaustion overpowered anxiety. Kelsey prepared for bed, going through her usual routine with mechanical precision. Face washed, teeth brushed, phone plugged in to charge on her nightstand. She hesitated before setting the final alarm, suddenly wary of the device that had delivered those unsettling messages. Sleep was elusive, broken by every creak of the building, every change in the rhythm of the rain. When she did finally drift off, her dreams were fragmented. Disjointed scenes of walking through rain-slick streets, constantly looking over her shoulder at something just beyond her field of vision. She woke with a start at 3:17 a.m., heart pounding, the dream dissolving like mist. The rain had finally stopped, leaving behind a preternatural quiet broken only by the occasional drip from gutters outside her window. Kelsey lay still, listening to the silence, trying to identify what had woken her. A noise, a dream, a presence. Her phone screen illuminated suddenly, casting an eerie blue glow across the darkened bedroom. A text message notification. Unknown. Number, "Are you awake?" Kelsey stared at the message, her mouth dry, the same number that had left the voicemails. She wondered briefly if she should respond, if engaging was the wise choice. But the need to know outweighed caution. She typed back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "Someone who knows what you've forgotten." Kelsey sat up, fully alert now, all traces of sleep vanishing. She turned on her bedside lamp as if light could somehow protect her from the electronic intrusion. "What are you talking about?" she typed. "What have I forgotten?" 3 dots appeared indicating the person was typing. They disappeared, reappeared, disappeared again. Finally, a response. "Check your medicine cabinet." Kelsey frowned at the screen. Her medicine cabinet? What could possibly be in there? That would explain any of this. Against her better judgment, she slid out of bed and padded to the bathroom. The tile was cold beneath her bare feet, the small space bright and ordinary under the fluorescent light. She opened the mirrored cabinet door and surveyed the contents. Toothpaste, contact lens solution, pain relievers, birth control pills. A half-empty bottle of antidepressants she'd been prescribed during a difficult period last year, but had stopped taking months ago. Nothing unusual. Nothing that triggered any revelation or recovered memory. She was about to close the cabinet when she noticed something tucked behind the antidepressant bottle, a small orange prescription bottle she didn't recognize. She reached for it, examining the label. It was prescribed to her. The date was from 3 weeks ago. The medication name was unfamiliar, something with a long chemical designation that meant nothing to her. The instructions read, "Take 1 tablet, daily for memory stabilization." Memory stabilization. Kelsey stared at the bottle, a cold dread spreading through her. She had no recollection of seeing a doctor recently, of being prescribed any new medication, of having any condition that would require memory stabilization. She twisted open the cap and peered inside. The bottle was nearly full, suggesting she had never taken the pills. Or had she started and then stopped? Had she forgotten taking them, forgotten being prescribed them in the first place? Her phone chimed again from the bedroom. Kelsey returned, the mysterious pill bottle clutched. In her hand. "Did you find it?" the unknown texter asked. "Yes," she typed back. "What is this? What's happening to me? You're finally waking up, that's good, but they'll try to make you forget again, they always do." "Who is they?" Kelsey demanded. "Who are you? How do you know about these pills?" "Because I was there when they gave them to you, when they told you your memories weren't real, that you had imagined everything. I tried to stop them, but they wouldn't listen." Kelsey's hands were shaking now, making it difficult to type. "This doesn't make any sense. I don't remember any of this." "That's the point, Kelsey. The pills make you forget, make you doubt yourself, make you think you're crazy when you notice things that don't add up. Like doors that should be locked but aren't. Like journal entries she didn't remember writing. Like voicemails with messages about not forgetting. What am I supposed to remember?" she typed. A long pause followed. Then, "Not over text. Too dangerous. They might be monitoring. Meet me tomorrow, the coffee shop on Dearborn, 2 p.m. Come alone. Who are you?" Kelsey tried again. "At least tell me your name." The reply was 3 simple words that sent a shock of recognition through her, though she couldn't place why. "Ask about Rebecca." The conversation ended there. No further messages came despite Kelsey's repeated attempts. Eventually, she set the phone down and sat on the edge of her bed, the prescription bottle still in her hand, its contents rattling softly as she turned it over and over. Rebecca. The name stirred something in her mind, a vague familiarity like a word on the tip of her tongue. But try as she might, she couldn't place it, couldn't connect it to any person she knew or had known. Sleep was impossible now. Kelsey spent the remainder of the night researching the medication, finding little beyond dry pharmaceutical data about its classification as an atypical antipsychotic, sometimes prescribed for dissociative disorders. Hallucinations or breaks from reality. Was that what had happened to her? Had she experienced some psychotic break she now couldn't remember? If so, why couldn't she recall any treatment, any doctor's visits, any discussion about these pills? By morning, exhaustion had blunted the edge of her panic, replacing it with a dull determination to uncover the truth. She showered, dressed, and made coffee with mechanical precision, her mind churning through possibilities, through what-ifs and maybes. She decided to take a sick day, the first in over a year, sending brief emails to her clients explaining the delay. Then she turned her attention to a more thorough search of her apartment, looking for any other evidence of gaps in her memory, of a life she had forgotten living. In her desk drawer, she found a business card for Dr. Eleanor Wyatt, psychiatrist. The card had no handwritten notes, no appointment times, nothing to indicate she had ever actually seen this doctor. But a quick internet search confirmed Dr. Wyatt specialized in dissociative disorders and memory issues. Kelsey dialed the number on the card. "Dr. Wyatt's office?" answered a pleasant female voice. "Hi, my name is Kelsey Chen. I think I might be a patient of Dr. Wyatt's, but I'm not sure." Even to her own ears, the statement sounded bizarre. A brief pause followed. "Let me check our records. Chen, you said?" "Yes, Kelsey Chen." The sound of typing, then, "Yes, Ms. Chen, you have an appointment this Friday at 2 p.m. Did you need to reschedule?" Kelsey's grip on the phone tightened, an appointment she had no memory of making. "No, that's fine. I seem to have misplaced my medication, and I was wondering if I could get a refill." Another pause, longer this time. "I see you're taking Nurovenil for memory stabilization. Dr. Wyatt will want to discuss how the medication is working for you during your appointment before authorizing any refills. Is there something specific you're experiencing that's concerning?" "You?" "Yes," Kelsey wanted to say. "I'm experiencing gaps in my memory. I'm finding things I don't remember writing, prescriptions I don't remember filling. I'm getting messages from strangers who seem to know more about my life than I do. Instead, she said, nothing specific, just wanted to be prepared. Thank you. After hanging up, Kelsey sat at her desk, staring at Dr. Wyatt's card. Here was confirmation that she was indeed being treated for some kind of memory issue. That the pills were real, prescribed by a real doctor she was apparently seeing regularly, and yet she had no recollection of any of it. She turned to her laptop and began a more systematic investigation, checking her email archives, her calendar, her banking records for any evidence of these doctor visits, these prescriptions. She found an email confirmation for her initial appointment with Dr. Wyatt 3 months ago, found calendar entries for weekly sessions, the most recent just 9 days ago, found credit card charges for co-payments to a psychiatric practice for prescriptions at her local pharmacy. All evidence of a life being lived, of decisions being made and actions being taken by a version of herself she couldn't remember. Then she checked her phone records, looking for any previous calls or texts with the unknown number that had contacted her last night and left those voicemails. Nothing. As far as her record showed, this person had never contacted her before, last week. But their messages implied an existing relationship, a shared history. I was there when they gave them to you. Who was this person? A friend? A fellow patient? Someone from Dr. Wyatt's office? Or someone trying to manipulate her, to take advantage of her apparent memory problems for reasons she couldn't begin to guess? The coffee shop meeting felt increasingly like a bad idea. And yet, what choice did she have? Dr. Wyatt's office clearly believed she was being treated for serious mental health issues. If she called them back, told them about her memory gaps, her confusion, they would likely assume she was experiencing symptoms of whatever condition they were already treating her for. If she was indeed suffering from some kind of dissociative disorder or psychosis, as the medication suggested, then everything she was experiencing, the strange texts, the voicemails, the feeling of being followed, could be manifestations of her condition rather than external reality. But it didn't feel that way. The text messages were on her phone, visible and real. The prescription bottle contained actual pills. The voicemails had been clear enough to extract words from using standard audio software. These weren't hallucinations. They couldn't be. By early afternoon, Kelsey had made her decision. She would meet this mysterious person, this someone who claimed to know what she had forgotten. But she would take precautions, meet in the public coffee shop as suggested, tell a friend where she was going, keep her phone ready to call for help if needed. She texted Amara explaining she was meeting someone who might have information about some concerning memory issues she'd been having. She gave the coffee shop address, the time, and a promise to check in afterward. Amara's response was immediate and worried. Memory issues? What's going on? Do you want me to come with you? Kelsey hesitated, then typed back, better if I go alone, but I'll keep you posted. If you don't hear from me by 3, call me. She didn't mention the mysterious texts or voicemails, the prescription she didn't remember being prescribed, the doctor she didn't remember seeing. It all sounded too bizarre, too much like the plot of a psychological thriller rather than something happening in real life. The rain had resumed by the time Kelsey left her apartment, a gentle drizzle that beaded on her raincoat and speckled her glasses. She carried an umbrella but didn't open it, finding the light moisture somehow grounding, a sensory reminder of the reality of the world around her. The coffee shop on Dearborn was one she passed regularly but rarely entered. A small, independent place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. As she pushed open the door, the rich aroma of coffee and the low hum of conversation enveloped her. It was moderately busy, the afternoon lull not yet beginning. Kelsey scanned the room, unsure who she was looking for, what sign would identify the sender of those cryptic messages. Ms. Chen? A voice beside her, female, professional. Kelsey turned to find a woman in her 50s, dressed in a tailored suit, her gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked like a corporate lawyer or a business executive, the last person Kelsey would have expected. Yes? Kelsey replied cautiously. I'm Dr. Eleanor Wyatt. The woman extended her hand. I believe we should talk." Kelsey stared, taken aback. "Dr. Wyatt, I thought I was meeting someone else." The psychiatrist's expression was composed, revealing nothing. "I received your call to my office this morning. My assistant notified me immediately, as per protocol for patients in your situation." "My situation?" Kelsey repeated, feeling as though the ground beneath her was shifting. "Which is what, exactly?" Dr. Wyatt gestured to a table in the corner, partially screened by a large potted plant. "Shall we sit? This isn't a conversation we should have standing in the doorway." Kelsey followed, her mind racing. Had Dr. Wyatt sent the texts? The voicemails? Had this been some kind of elaborate test or therapeutic technique? Once seated, Dr. Wyatt spoke in a low, measured voice. "Kelsey, you've been experiencing what we call fugue episodes for the past 3 months, periods where you function normally, but later have no recollection of your actions or decisions. The medication I prescribed is designed to stabilize these episodes, to help integrate your memories." "But I don't remember any of this," Kelsey said, her voice rising slightly. "I don't remember seeing you, talking to you. I found the pills this morning and had no idea what they were for." "That's concerning," Dr. Wyatt said, her brow furrowing. "You've been responding well to treatment. There shouldn't be gaps this significant in your awareness of our work together." "Well, there are," Kelsey said, a hint of anger breaking through her confusion. "And now I'm getting strange texts and voicemails from someone telling me not to forget, telling me to ask about someone named Rebecca. Does that mean anything to you?" At the mention of Rebecca, something flickered across Dr. Wyatt's carefully neutral expression. Concern, alarm, something Kelsey couldn't quite identify. "Who told you to ask about Rebecca?" Dr. Wyatt asked, her voice sharper now. "I don't know, they wouldn't tell me who they were. Just that they were there when they gave me the pills, when they told me my memories weren't real." "Kelsey," Dr. Wyatt said, leaning forward, "I need you to listen to me very carefully. You are experiencing a relapse of your condition. These messages, these apparent gaps in your memory of our treatment, they're manifestations of a dissociative state you've experienced before." "That doesn't explain who Rebecca is," Kelsey insisted. Dr. Wyatt was silent for a moment, as if weighing her next words carefully. "Rebecca was a former tenant in your building, a woman who went missing last year. During your initial fugue state, you became fixated on her disappearance. You developed elaborate theories, convinced yourself you had information about what happened to her." "Information like what?" Kelsey asked, her mouth suddenly dry. "You believed you had witnessed something the night she disappeared, something you couldn't remember clearly, but felt was important. You began keeping journals, recording dreams you thought were suppressed memories, convincing yourself you were somehow responsible for not preventing whatever had happened to her." Kelsey's mind raced back to the journal entry she had found. "Strange. Feeling walking home. Like I was watched. Door unlocked when I got there, didn't tell anyone, and wondered how many others like it existed, hidden within her digital records or written in physical notebooks she had yet to discover." "So I imagined all of it," she asked. "The messages I'm receiving now, they're what, hallucinations?" "Not necessarily," Dr. Wyatt said carefully. "Your fugue states sometimes manifest as separate identities or aspects of yourself. It's possible you're the one sending these messages, creating this mystery to solve without your conscious awareness." The suggestion hit Kelsey like a slap. "You think I'm texting myself? Leaving myself voicemails with cryptic warnings? Why would I do that?" The mind creates complex defenses when faced with traumatic experiences or unacceptable thoughts. In your case, the fixation on Rebecca's disappearance seems to have triggered a dissociative response, a way for your mind to process feelings of guilt, fear, or other emotions too difficult to face directly. Kelsey shook her head, trying to absorb the impossible scenario Dr. Wyatt was describing. It sounded both clinically plausible and completely absurd. If she was experiencing such severe psychiatric symptoms, how was she maintaining her freelance business, her client relationships, her daily life? How had none of her friends noticed? "I need proof," she said finally. "If what you're saying is true, if I've been seeing you for months and just don't remember it, there must be evidence. Session notes recording something. Of course, Dr. Wyatt nodded. I can provide you with copies of our session summaries, but Kelsey, I'm concerned about this sudden regression. You haven't had a gap this significant in your treatment awareness. For weeks now, did you stop taking your medication? I don't know, Kelsey admitted. I don't remember taking it. The bottle looks full. Dr. Wyatt reached into her bag and pulled out a tablet. After a few taps, she turned it to show Kelsey a chart. This is the pharmacy record of your prescription fills. You've been refilling regularly, which suggests you've been taking it as prescribed. Something else must have triggered this episode. Kelsey stared at the chart, at the neat rows of dates and medication names that chronicled a medical history. She had no memory of living. It was surreal, like looking at evidence of someone else's life, a doppelganger who shared her name, her identity, but whose experiences remained locked away in some inaccessible corner of her mind. The texts, she said suddenly. Show me your phone. If I'm sending these messages to myself from another phone, from another aspect of myself, as you put it, then the number won't be in your contacts either. Dr. Wyatt seemed taken aback by the request. I don't see how that would... Please, Kelsey insisted. I need to know if this is real or if I'm... She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't bring herself to say losing my mind or going crazy, or whatever clinical term might apply to someone who created elaborate delusions and then forgot their own involvement. After a moment's hesitation, Dr. Wyatt unlocked her phone and handed it to Kelsey. What number are you looking for? Kelsey recited the digits from the mysterious texts and voicemails, watching Dr. Wyatt's face carefully as she did so. There was no recognition there, no reaction that suggested the psychiatrist knew the number or expected to find it in her contacts. But when Kelsey typed the number into Dr. Wyatt's contact search, a name appeared immediately. Rebecca Wells. Kelsey's breath caught. She turned the phone to show Dr. Wyatt, whose composed expression finally cracked, revealing something that looked very much like fear. That's not possible, Dr. Wyatt said, taking the phone back with a slightly trembling hand. Rebecca Wells disappeared over a year ago. This must be a mistake. Oh, you're lying to me, Kelsey said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. Rebecca isn't just someone I fixated on during some fugue state. You know her. She's in your contacts, and someone is using her phone to contact me. Dr. Wyatt was already dialing, her professional demeanor slipping further as she held the phone to her ear. After a moment, she lowered it, her expression grim. Voicemail box full, she said. Look, Kelsey, there's a rational explanation for this. Rebecca was my patient before she disappeared. Of course, I have her contact information, but she's been missing for 15 months now. Presumed... She stopped herself. Presumed what? Kelsey pushed. Presumed dead, Dr. Wyatt finished reluctantly. She suffered from similar dissociative episodes to yours. Paranoia, belief that she was being followed or watched. When she disappeared, the police investigation suggested she'd likely committed suicide, though her body was never found. Kelsey's mind was racing, connecting dots that had seemed random but now formed a disturbing pattern. And I live in her old apartment, don't I? That's why I feel like I'm being watched. That's why my door was unlocked that night. Dr. Wyatt's silence was confirmation enough. You prescribed her the same medication you're giving me, Kelsey continued. The realizations, coming faster now, told her the same things you're telling me, that her fears weren't real, that she was experiencing delusions, that she needed medication to stabilize her memories. Kelsey, you're spiraling into exactly the same paranoid thought patterns Rebecca exhibited before her disappearance, Dr. Wyatt said, her composure returning. This is your condition speaking, not rational thought. Answer me this, Kelsey said, leaning forward. Did you send me those texts? Leave me those voicemails? Set up this meeting under the pretense of being some mysterious informant? Of course not. Dr. Wyatt looked genuinely offended at the suggestion. I came here because my assistant told me you had called, sounding confused about your treatment. Given your history, I was concerned you might be experiencing a relapse. Then someone else sent those messages, Kelsey said firmly. Someone with Rebecca's phone. Someone who knows what happened to her and what's happening to me now. Before Dr. Wyatt could respond, Kelsey's own phone chimed with a text notification. She glanced down at the screen. Unknown number. Don't believe her. Check under the floorboard beneath your bed. Kelsey showed the message to Dr. Wyatt, whose face had gone pale. Still think I'm sending these to myself? Kelsey asked. While sitting right here with you, someone is clearly trying to manipulate you, Dr. Wyatt said, her voice strained. Playing into your existing delusions for their own purposes. Or someone is trying to warn me, Kelsey countered, standing up, and I intend to find out which it is. Dr. Wyatt reached for her arm. Kelsey, please, don't do anything rash. Come, back to my office with me now. We can talk through this together in a safe environment. Kelsey pulled away. I'll see you Friday for our scheduled appointment, Dr. Wyatt, after I've looked under the floorboard. She left the coffee shop quickly, ignoring Dr. Wyatt's calls for her to wait, to be reasonable. The rain had intensified while they were inside, but Kelsey barely noticed as she hurried toward her apartment building, her mind fixed on the mysterious message and what she might find beneath her bed. Back in her apartment, Kelsey went straight to the bedroom, dropping to her knees beside the bed. The hardwood floor was old, the planks showing years of wear. She ran her fingers along the edges, looking for any sign of one that might be loose, might conceal a hiding place. Near the head of the bed, one plank felt slightly different from the others, the edge not quite flush with its neighbors. Kelsey worked her fingers into the tiny gap and pulled upward. The board resisted, then came free with a soft cracking sound. Beneath was a small cavity in the subfloor, and within it, a plastic bag containing a phone and a small notebook. Hands shaking, Kelsey extracted both items. The phone was an older model smartphone, its battery long dead. The notebook was water-stained, its pages rippled as if it had been exposed to rain. Kelsey opened it carefully. The handwriting inside was not her own, but the content was eerily familiar in its paranoia, its growing certainty of being watched, followed, manipulated. The final entry, dated the night Rebecca disappeared, read, "Rain again tonight. He'll be watching the building like always. Dr. W says I'm imagining it all, that the man I keep seeing is a manifestation of my trauma. She increased my dosage today. Says I need to trust the medication, trust the process, but I don't trust her anymore. Something isn't right. If anyone finds this, my name is Rebecca Wells, and I'm not crazy. There is someone following me. And I think Dr. Wyatt knows who it is." Kelsey closed the notebook, her heart pounding. She needed to charge the phone, to see what it contained, what evidence Rebecca might have gathered before she vanished. As she reached for her charger, her own phone rang. Amara. "Hey," Kelsey answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "I was just about to text you. Meeting's over." "Thank God," Amara said, relief evident in her voice. "How did it go? Did you get answers about these memory issues you mentioned?" "Sort of," Kelsey said, unwilling to explain the full bizarre situation over the phone. "It's complicated. Can you come over? I could use a friend right now." "Of course, give me 30 minutes. Do you need me to bring anything?" Kelsey thought about Rebecca's phone, about the notebook, about Dr. Wyatt's insistence that she was experiencing delusions. "Actually, yes. Do you still have that mini voice recorder you use for your journalism classes? The one that can run for hours?" "Sure, I can bring it. Why?" "Just a precaution," Kelsey said. "I'll explain when you get here." After hanging up, Kelsey plugged in Rebecca's phone, waiting impatiently for it to gather enough charge to power on. When the screen finally lit up, it requested a passcode. Kelsey stared at it, deflated. Of course it would be locked. What had she expected? She tried a few obvious combinations, 1234-0000, the last 4 digits of the phone number, all unsuccessfully. Then, on a hunch, she tried the date of Rebecca's final journal entry. The phone unlocked. The home screen was ordinary default wallpaper, standard app layout. Kelsey went straight to the messages, looking for conversations that might explain the recent texts she had received. There were none recent enough. The last message had been sent on the day Rebecca disappeared, to a contact listed simply as M. "He's outside again." I'm going to confront him this time. I can't live like this anymore. There was no response. Kelsey checked the call history, the photos, the notes, anything that might offer insights into Rebecca's final days. The photos showed ordinary scenes. City, streets, coffee shops, a few selfies of a woman with curly dark hair and wary eyes. Nothing that screamed evidence of stalking or persecution. But in the Notes app, Kelsey found something more promising. A list of dates and times, each accompanied by brief descriptions. Grey car parked across street 2 hours. Same man at coffee shop wearing blue jacket. Someone in stairwell gone when I opened door. It read like surveillance logs. Rebecca, documenting patterns, building a case for the stalking she believed was happening. The final entry was from the night she disappeared. Going to get proof tonight. If something happens to me, check Dr. W's connection to M. Dr. W, Dr. Wyatt. And M, the contact Rebecca had texted just before she vanished. Kelsey set the phone down, trying to process what she had discovered. Either Rebecca had been suffering from extreme paranoid delusions, as Dr. Wyatt suggested, or she had been genuinely stalked, had discovered some connection between her psychiatrist and her stalker, and had disappeared, perhaps killed, as a result. And now someone was using Rebecca's phone to warn Kelsey that the same thing might be happening to her. A knock at the door startled her out of her thoughts. She checked the peephole. Amara, as expected, looking worried. Kelsey let her in, immediately locking the door behind her. "Okay, you're officially freaking me out," Amara said, setting her bag down. "What's going on, and why do you need a voice recorder?" Kelsey took a deep breath. "You're going to think, I'm crazy. Maybe I am crazy. But I need to tell someone what's happening, and I need them to believe me." She explained everything. The strange voicemails, the texts, the discovery of medication she didn't remember being prescribed, the meeting with Dr. Wyatt, and finally Rebecca's phone and journal hidden beneath her floorboard. Amara listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from concern to disbelief to something approaching horror as the story unfolded. "So, either I'm having some kind of psychotic break," Kelsey finished, "or someone is trying to do to me whatever they did to Rebecca, and somehow Dr. Wyatt is involved." Amara was silent for a long moment. "Have you called the police?" she finally asked. "And tell them what? That I found a phone under my floorboard? That I'm getting texts from a missing woman's number? That my psychiatrist, who I don't remember seeing, might be involved in some conspiracy? They'd have me committed before I finished the sentence." "Okay, fair point," Amara conceded. "But you can't just do nothing. If there's even a chance that what happened to Rebecca is now happening to you." "I know," Kelsey said. "That's why I asked for the recorder. I have an appointment with Dr. Wyatt on Friday. I want to record everything she says. If she is involved in whatever happened to Rebecca, maybe I can get her to say something incriminating." "That's dangerous, Kels," Amara warned. "If she is involved in something sinister, confronting her could put you at risk." "I'm not going to confront her," Kelsey assured her. "I'm just going to play along, pretend I'm accepting her explanation of my condition, and see what she reveals. But I need backup. I need someone who knows where I am, what I'm doing." "I'll do better than that," Amara said firmly. "I'll come with you. Wait in the lobby during your appointment. Make sure you get out safely." Kelsey nodded, relief mixing with a persistent undercurrent of fear. "Thank you, but there's something else we need to do first." "What's that?" "Find out who M is," Kelsey said, holding up Rebecca's phone. "The last person Rebecca texted before she disappeared, the person Dr. Wyatt apparently has some connection to. If we can identify them, maybe we can understand what really happened to Rebecca and what's happening to me now." Rain drummed against the windows, a constant reminder of the night Kelsey had felt followed, the night she had apparently found her door unlocked, the night the mysterious voicemails had referenced. Whatever truth lay hidden in Rebecca's disappearance, in Dr. Wyatt's treatment, in the messages from an unknown sender, Kelsey was determined to uncover it before she became another missing person, another memory washed away by the rain. As she and Amara bent over Rebecca's phone, searching for clues to M's identity, Kelsey couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. That somewhere, Behind the curtain of rain outside her window, eyes were fixed on her apartment, waiting for her next move. And that whoever was watching had been there all along, patient as the rain, wearing away at her reality drop by drop, until she, like Rebecca, began to question her own mind, her own memories. Until she, like Rebecca, became someone else's forgotten secret. If this story held you in its grip until now, like this video and subscribe. There are stories like this one in the algorithm waiting for you. And there's one more waiting for you right there. Maybe it will explain what was missing. In this one, maybe it will make everything worse.